Welcome to the Rewards Master. I am so excited to have Travis on with me today. We did a video for his channel, had a great time discussing different ecosystems and whether we think they're a long-term play or not. And today we're going to discuss very, very different, but I think very respected travel styles. In other words, I don't travel like he does, he doesn't travel like I do, but I think we both see the place of both of those in the world of points and miles for different people depending on their needs. Travis, great to have you with us.
Happy to be here. Really excited. And I will say, I think a lot of the people that are watching, I think will relate to your style a little bit more, but hopefully I can add some commentary to the other black sheep like me that travel internationally, so in economy, which, it can be difficult, but I will say it is so rewarding once you get to some of these destinations. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
Well, I will say I'm sometimes very envious because when I see my points balances drop dramatically when we're booking a business class trip, and I think we could have both done this round trip for the price of one of these business class tickets. But the problem is we're also in a different stage of life, and I just don't think Nona will fly in economy. I mean, I've got that problem now. So
Oh, you
there,
spoiled her too much.
oh man, let me tell you, once you go front, you don't go back. And I mean, I maybe could, but I'm not sure. In fact, she doesn't even get excited about the trip until I tell her, because I do a last minute strategy. I often will book an economy first, and sometimes we're getting close to it and it's still an economy. And I'm not sure if she's actually going to go on the trip with me or not. So it's like I've created this monster that I have to deal with, but you know what? She makes it all worth it. So it's all right.
No, no, good. And I will say, I got so lucky with my wife. We, for our honeymoon, we flew business class, and it's the only business class I've ever done. Meaning, I don't do too much commentary around, these upper class, first class, business class redemptions. But we flew Qatar business class, and I am so lucky because we got off, and she was like, how much did you spend in points? I always quantify things in dollar form. That way, people that don't understand can kind of follow
Sure.
me. So I don't say like 1,000 points or anything like that. I told her the X number of dollars of points that I spent on it. And she was like, I don't know if it was worth it.
And she flew the best one in the world. I mean, especially
we,
if y'all
we,
were
we
Q
were
Suite.
not in, we were not in Q suites. So everybody in the comments can say, well, that was because you were not in Q suites, which may be true.
I
But
don't know.
I got
Regular
very lucky.
Qatar business class is still pretty good because we've been
It's
on
still
it.
nice.
It's still
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still good.
No, it was really nice.
All
Yeah.
right, Travis, tell us a little bit. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put his channel down in the comments below. Make sure you visit. It's a fantastic channel. It's one that I always go to and watch because he's got so much knowledge and so much experience. And so please, please, please make sure to go over there if you haven't subscribed to subscribe to his channel. So Travis, tell us a little bit about your travel style and how you approach it. And then I think most of my watchers here probably know how I do it, but I'll do a little recap of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just first and foremost, I'm a traveler, and I've been a traveler for a huge chunk of my life. Ironically enough, whenever I was in up until basically I graduated from college, my parents we really didn't go internationally, and once I got the bug, I never let up. And I started out as a traveler, and then as a result, got into credit cards, not the other way around. And as a result, for me, my priority is to get as many life experiences as I possibly can. And I will basically do anything that it takes to make sure that I'm able to do that, even if it means like stretching my points through an economy class ticket from Austin to Dallas and then Dallas to Shanghai in economy class. I am almost exclusively an economy traveler. And I think as a result, um, the way that I approach my card ecosystems, the way that I approach transfer partners, the way that I approach my overall credit card strategy is a little different than some other people, and I think very different from Bob. But ironically enough, we also have some areas where our viewpoints very much align. But that's really, I think that's kind of why we came up with today's topic.
Yeah, I mean, as far as our history, we're Nona we're in what I call the golden triangle of life, which is, if life is made up of three different sides of the triangle, most of the time in life, one side or the other of the triangle is much shorter and others are much longer, so it's kind of misshapen. So those three sides would be resources, money, they would be time and health. And, when you're very young, a lot of folks may have a lot of time and they may have a lot of health, right? But they don't have very much resources. When you get very old, oftentimes you got just a huge line of resources and, you might have a huge line of time to spend, but you just have very little health. And we're kind of in that what I call the golden triangle where all three sides kind of align. We've got pretty good health because we had our children young, so we've already raised our family. We're empty nesters and we have the time because we have flexible jobs. We're late in our career. We have the resources. So that's kind of where we are. And so we're using points and miles because we're at a point where we could travel with cash and do what you do in economy and pay for that, and it wouldn't be a burden on us. We could stay in hotel, Fairfields or courtyards or whatever where we go. But
Mm-hmm.
we kind of use our points and miles to elevate what we could and would be doing anyway. So
Yeah.
we're doing what we would do anyhow at a level we couldn't afford to do. So we're flying in Etihad business and in Emirates. We got an Emirates coming up in business, and we're staying at Conrad's and Waldorf's and Ritz's and all of these places. Just the same thing though for the experience, right? Because
Yep.
we want to live our life as I guess
As best as you can.
best as we can. That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
those are very two different strategies. So let me start off and ask you of the different ecosystems. We're talking about points and miles ecosystems. This doesn't really pertain to cash back people, but of
Mm-hmm.
the points and miles ecosystems, everything from Wells Fargo to Amex to Citi to Capital One to Bilt, all of the big ones. Chase, of course. I can't believe I forgot Chase, but that kind of makes sense with you and
Shocker.
me. But I mean, in all of those ecosystems, which ones do you think work really well for your style of travel, and which ones are kind of harder to make work?
Yeah, I think two things that I think that my frugal nature of travel also kind of bleeds into my approach to the credit card game. Meaning it also applies to annual fees and it also applies to I want the highest multipliers possible that I can get on my spend. I am trying to wring out every dime of value that I can from my spend. And I guess the answer to your question is I needed to include that because those aspects matter to those ecosystems, not just the partners. But I would say number one by far, Citi is just the best. I love Citi because number one, really, really high multipliers. Number two, those at this point are wildly underrated, especially for an economy traveler, but I think they're great for a business class traveler too. American Airlines is just a winner. Whether you're me or you, it is just a winner. And then if you're an economy traveler, you're having to think about, okay, well, what about my multipliers on my places that I'm actually staying? Typically, I'm traveling Airbnb. I swear by Airbnb, just because you can get such a nice there's a game that you have to get good at with Airbnb, but once you get good at selecting Airbnbs, you can stay at a much nicer place than you would in cash versus if you had stayed at a hotel. But when I am traveling via hotels, it's almost always because I'm getting really good points value. And and Choice 1 to 2 is such an underrated transfer partner. You can get I mean, for me, they're hotels that are clean, they have Wi Fi, they have air conditioning, nice little TV. There's nothing to complain
Free
about. And frankly,
breakfast?
free breakfast, which by the way is something you brag about with status and a lot of other ecosystems. But nonetheless, like I'm spending very little time in the hotels that I'm staying in, but I'm getting crazy good multipliers. Like I was in for our honeymoon, we spent some time in Italy. We stayed at a Choice hotel in Rome, and I think it was like a 6 cents per point multiplier in Rome. We had free breakfast, and by the way, that breakfast was shockingly good. Overall, I would say that City's number one. Number two, I still think it's Bilt. Bilt is amazing. Really high multipliers, relatively reasonable fees, and on top of that, the credits that come with them are really good. So in my book, it is easy to cancel out the fees altogether. And then of course you have some of the best points in the game. You have Alaska, you have Japan Airlines. With Japan Airlines, I've had less success with their partner bookings than I have on Alaska, but both very good. And then until May, we have Hyatt, and you can get a lot of really good value even as an economy traveler
For
of
now.
Hyatt, at least up until for now. And then you have don't people are going to kill me for saying this. I love Wells Fargo. They have choice 1 to 2, and then they have your bread and butter, like your other airline partners that I can take advantage of. And again, you have really solid multipliers like 4x and a bunch of weird things with the Attune card, and then 5x on hotel direct on hotels, and then 4x direct with airfare on the autograph card. So yeah, I would say that that's kind of how I am looking for ecosystems where you have high multipliers and then partners that you can make really good use out of, that you're not having to spend, $500 worth of points per night on a
Right.
hotel, or, over $1,000 of points for a business class ticket, like flight somewhere.
So what are the least useful?
But people are, if anybody that's watching this follows my channel, they're not going to be surprised in the least. Chase is not it is right now, and we talked about it in a separate video that we actually made previous to this. I think there's a chance that they revamp things. I think Bob might have a slightly different perspective on that one. I hope that the revamp of the preferred is good, but as of right now, really bad multipliers. The partners they have are solid, but as soon as this Hyatt devaluation happens, then you're looking at basically, to me, you're looking at only the airline partners, and they don't really have anything that's just strikingly great. People will list off United, people will list off Southwest, and Southwest I've never redeemed through Southwest. United, it's just average. It's just meh almost all the time. And that doesn't mean that you can't find good stuff. I'm not saying that you can't find the stray really good redemption, but
Well, you can find good stuff, but you'll never find great stuff. That's just
exactly,
the way that it
exactly.
works.
And then they got the other. And so at the end of the day, I can make use of those points, but I'm earning them at a way slower pace.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
see, for our travel style, it's funny because I'm big on multipliers because people who watch the channel know this. I talk a lot about high spend and making sure you get value from that through high multipliers. So, of course, Bilt is super high in my estimation because frankly, with Alaska, with Atmos points, we can get business class flights often much cheaper, especially to Europe. I mean, all day to Europe for what, 55, 45, 55,000 points. I mean, all day. And so that's very useful. But it's funny because the other one that's so valuable to us, because you mentioned hotels, I'm never using points for hotels. In fact, we're taking a trip to Asia in the fall, and I burned our last IHG points and our last Hilton points just because I just as well I don't care about them. So it was like because we have so many credits on high-end cards that we're paying cash and getting those back, but that kind of influences what ecosystem matters to me. And right now it's American Express and Bilt because American Express, their high end cards, give us credits that make those high end hotels so achievable. Because
Mhm.
Nona and I, she has a Away Again Travels with Nona and Bob. She's starting this YouTube channel where she's reviewing hotels and stuff. People don't want us to see us review a choice hotel. I mean, that's not
Yep.
the, and we frankly, that's not where we're wanting to stay. I respect that you do, but that's not where we're wanting to stay. So we're wanting the Conrads and Ritz and JW Marriotts and stuff like that. So Amex has just their platinum card having that $300 twice a year and the business platinum, and we have both of those to be able to have that FHR credit. And we're almost always booking something under $450 and we're staying one night. That's why Chase is not there because the edit, 2 nights. We're staying one night and we're switching across the street to the next hotel reviewing that one. And we love it. We love it. Like we were just on this trip. She's like, we're gonna go to Hong Kong Disney. And she's like, well, how are we gonna work that out? We gotta have the whole day. I said, well, the JW Marriott's right across the street from the Conrad. We're gonna stay in the Conrad. We're gonna get our bags early in the morning. We're gonna go leave them at the desk at the Marriott. We're gonna go to
Mhm.
Disney and then we're gonna come back. I mean, it's no big deal. It's right across the street, because generally those high-end hotels are all grouped together or pretty close together. So,
Yeah.
but that's so funny because I do not value the points in American Express as highly, not even close, and I don't value their multipliers very highly, although that 5x directly with airfare is usable. But It's those credits make that ecosystem very, very valuable for our particular travel style. So it's so funny
Definitely.
how very different dynamics, go into it. Now, on my worst, I'm going to say Chase also, and only because I just don't have, they don't do anything that my others don't do. I mean, and they earn worse. So, yes, they have some, I mean, Aeroplan's a great partner, but I get that with other ecosystems with American Express and with Bilt. So it's like, why would I worry about Chase on that? And Hyatt, I mean, it's so funny because the Hyatt changes for you are not going to be near as impactful as they are for people like me. Because at the low end, the Hyatt changes aren't all that extreme, right? I mean, they
Maybe because
maybe
I am of the opinion that those category ones. How often do you see that?
well,
Like,
you just don't see
do
them.
those even exist? And then it's as soon as you get even the category. I wish I had it in front of me, but the numbers increase drastically even as soon as you got to like category 2 or category 3 or something like that. And that's like most of the hotels, even economy hotels. That is I, I I have a slightly different perspective. I think that that's going to affect almost all of the hotels.
Maybe so, but it really affects category eights and category
Yes,
seven.
it
I
does.
mean,
Yeah, it does.
wow. So, and I wasn't using points anyway, so it doesn't really impact me, but I'm meaning people like me who are trying to stay in those high, and I know a lot of people that way. They're trying to
Mhm.
stay at Park Hyatts, and that is changing. So yeah, the bottom of the barrel, and then the bottom of the barrel for me also is going to be Wells Fargo. I know that works great for you, but I mean, what do they do for me? I mean, what I'm looking to do, it's just they literally have nothing that I can't get somewhere else.
So let's say you had none of these hotel credits. You as a business class traveler, would you be using your points on hotels versus flights?
Well, that's even a hard world to imagine these days with the credit cards that we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be because I can't pay $1,000 a night for a hotel room. In fact,
Yeah.
it's hard for me if I wasn't getting a credit back 400. Now we buy a lot of $450 a night hotel rooms, and we get 300 back on it or whatever it may be, um, and
Mm.
that doesn't bother me. But if I were just forking out the $450, it'd be
Then you'd be
painful.
using them.
It'd be
And
painful.
the only reason that I brought that up is that the multipliers that you get on business class travel versus typically what you get even on like Hyatt in its heyday, you're still getting better value cents per point on your points via business class travel typically. Which is why I was very interested to see if you would be using your points for that.
Yeah, so if I did not have access to any of those and I had to choose, we'd probably pay for low-end hotels, Courtyards,
Mhm.
Fairfields, Hyatt Places, things like that. $150-ish a night. And overseas, they're pretty good, really. I mean, they're clean, they're decent, they're nice. And even in the States, we can handle the Eggos for breakfast and the powdered eggs, if we have to.
Yeah.
Because if I were to value the difference, I'm never going to get the same cents per point value on a hotel booking as I am on a business class flight. It's just no, not even. And even if I were to say experientially, and I know a lot of people in the community disagree, and that's fine. And I understand it because we like the high end hotels, but
Mhm.
we like business class flights a lot better. I mean, it's just because we, at our age and at our mode of life. I mean, we want to get there and be rested and just the experience. I mean, a nice hotel is pretty nice. I mean, it's nice, but is it that much nicer than a mid-level hotel? But a business class flight versus flying in the back, it's just absolutely it's a different world.
It's not even the same. Yeah. It is not. It's not even the same ballpark. And I will say, even as a strictly economy traveler, I have thought about splurging to get us business class tickets on a flight. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't have any inclination to stay at a nicer hotel. I just don't really care. I don't spend any time in the hotel. I'm gonna get breakfast out. I'm not even eating the breakfast in the hotel, even if they're giving it to me and it's really nice just because I want to experience the local culture. I want to experience the local cuisine. I want to meet the local, the waiter that'll actually talk to me. But you know, with that said, with the flights, there have been times, painful story. This was actually not for leisure, this was for work, but classic economy story. I was in the aisle seat. There was a guy who was to my left of me in the window, and his dog was in the middle seat. His dog had peed, and I was trying to communicate to him that his dog had peed. And before you know it, along my pleated pants, my leg was basically covered in dog urine. Um, it just and he wouldn't believe me. He just refused to believe that his dog would pee on a plane. He would not do it. And that is your classic economy experience, and you would never get that in business
Yeah.
class. Not
I mean,
happening.
I fly economy because I have enough status where I get the better seats in economy domestically for free when I book. But I fly
Yeah.
economy, for my work and things. And yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I had one instance where it was all the way from Chicago to Seattle, so a pretty long domestic flight. And I
Hmm.
sat next to this pleasant guy. He was a military guy. We had a great conversation. I enjoyed it. But I was
Hmm.
sick as a dog because I have an extreme allergy to cats. It causes asthma. And he had a cat under the seat and I didn't even know it. That's not going to happen in business. If they do have it, it's going to be distanced from you, right?
Yeah.
So I actually have a medical concern with this. And he was the nicest guy. I didn't even know it till he was pulling the bag out when we'd already landed. And I'm like feeling miserable and having trouble breathing and all this stuff. It's like, and I could handle that. I mean, I took my puffers when I got to Seattle. It was okay. But
Yeah.
man, if I had to go 11 hours with that, and if the plane's full and they couldn't move my seat, or if they did move my seat, who knows where I'm going to be sitting? I mean, it's just
Hmm.
like stuff like that. I just, no, life's too short. I mean, we're going to spend our points because
Yeah.
points are easy to get. So that's kind of where we're at. So let me ask you this. When it comes to this idea of travel, we're kind of talking about international travel. But what about people who most people don't do a lot of international travel? If they do one trip a year, that's a lot. They might do
Hmm.
one trip every 3 or 4 years. So really, you could tough it out once every 3 or 4 years, right? But what
Yeah.
about on the domestic side? What do you think about different ecosystems for people who travel domestically and travel only in economy?
You know, you'll hear a lot of YouTubers, and I think YouTubers that frankly don't do it themselves talk about, oh, you can book domestically with these international partners, and you
Oh,
absolutely can. I do that all the time, absolutely, but it is not as available as every like. They just stop there when they're explaining that, and the caveat is that it's just not as available. It's not as flexible. It is nice to have domestic partners,
it's not
absolutely.
as easy either. They
It's
make
not
it
as
sound
easy.
easy. It ain't
Yeah,
as easy.
and on top of that, you're kind of deprior. It's hard. Yeah, I could get into the detail, but I think that having a partner like American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Choice One to Two, Hyatt, especially as a well for now with Hyatt as a domestic economy traveler is invaluable. I do think you need those. And I know that you could argue, okay, United, Delta, and yeah, you could do that, but with Delta, you might as well go cash back to some extent. And then with United, yes, you can find some deals. I just don't think that it will be as compelling of a redemption typically domestically. But you can
1.3
find
to
deals.
1.5. You're going to get 1.3 to 1.5 with them.
Yeah.
That's
And I
okay.
found actually, ironically enough, for a recent video where I was talking about Air India, I found a couple redemptions that were actually pretty solid. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was like, I think it was over 2 cents per point. So solid for an economy traveler, but that is not common. I think that
Yeah.
what you just named is the most, that's what you're commonly going to find.
Well, and even, I mean, honestly, for people who travel domestically in economy,
Mhm.
people talk about, well, we're both big Bilt fans, and I think Bilt is fantastic, and I think Atmos is fantastic. But if I was focused solely on domestic travel, I'd be focused on Citi over Bilt because Alaska is good, and you can fly American with Alaska. But I'll tell you, anybody who does this a lot
Hard to
knows.
find.
Anybody who's checking, I check flights pretty much every day because I try to work up to a better deal.
Yep.
I hoard points, I wait. I make sure I have it to buy when I find it, and then I do. I mean, my last big redemption I did the day before, so I do
Mhm.
real last minute travel, and I can tell you after checking all the time that on a certain day on American Airlines, there'll be 3 flights available on Alaska, and there'll be 35 flights available on American.
it, 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 simply put, if you're going to be flying American, they're going to prioritize you if you're using American points.
Absolutely.
It's just that simple. I think you nailed it. I think Citi is like, at least for me, if you're going to be flying, sorry, if you're going to be traveling domestically, Citi just makes a lot of sense. Well, and especially if you're an economy traveler, because then of course wherever you're going, there's going to be a choice hotel. Don't get me wrong, not all of them are nice hotels, ones that you would actually want to stay at. You're going to have to make sure you do your research on the hotel, but you can get there with American, almost guaranteed, and then you can stay there with choice 1 to 2.
Yeah. Is La Quinta? That's a choice, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Is that a Wyndham maybe?
Um,
La Quinta? Well, I know if it was just La Quinta, Nona wouldn't go anywhere with me because we had a real bad experience there one time. So that one's a no-go forever.
it,
I mean,
it, so all of the brands that are included in a bunch of these. So there's a Comfort Inn, there's Clarion Ascend, there's Econo Lodge Sleep, Cambria. Cambrias can be very nice. I've stayed in multiple Cambrias and multiple Ascend hotels. If you're looking for kind of their more, luxurious brands, I would recommend those.
right.
And then you have other things like the Roadway Inn, the Quality Inn,
Well, then
stuff.
La Quinta might be Wyndham. I don't know. Somebody will tell us in the comments, but wow,
Yeah.
that's she just won't do that ever again. It was
And especially,
we slept on top of our clothes on the bed. It was that bad one time. So yeah, we've sometimes economy travel. Now, you can get a bad high-end hotel, but it's not as likely, right? I mean, it's
not
not as
even close
likely.
as likely. But I will say, always do your research on the individual hotel. Never book. And I think that also goes for the higher end hotels too. Always do your research. If the reviews are an average of 3 stars, you got something to worry about. It is as simple as that.
Well, that one was a situation where our flight got canceled. So it's like it was midnight and we had to get something close to the airport. So I just booked something online. Oh my. Oh my. So yeah, it's that miles may vary on these kind of things. So I'd hope
Yep.
the La Quinta people don't come looking for me. But it's a yeah, the thing is though, is we did a lot of economy travel at a different stage in life when we had kids being raised. So we have a lot of experience with it. And I think
Mhm.
that's a big kind of underpinning of this discussion is that it kind of depends on your situation. It depends on your stage of life. It depends on your objectives when it comes to travel. So let me
Yeah.
ask you, when it comes to your travel style, what kind of cent per point are you looking for when it comes to your international, particularly uh, travel with economy as your goal?
That's a really good question because I wanted to ask you that exact thing because you know this game so well. You can basically pin down exactly what you're expecting from each partner. But so I'll throw that back over to you here soon. Generally, what I'm looking for is anywhere between keep in mind it depends on the ecosystem because I'm in all ecosystems except Chase. Shocker. So it kind of depends on what the currency is that I'm using. For example, if I'm using a transferable currency, I'm basically looking for 1.7 and up. If it's below 1.7, I'm just going to pay in cash because I know I travel all the time. I know that I travel enough that I can get above that. And I would rather pay in cash if it means that I can get 2 cents per point later. So if it's below 1.7%, I don't use the points. But for example, I had some Delta points stuck just from flying Delta in cash for a while through work. That is an ecosystem where I don't think I'm is an economy traveler. I'm not going to get 1.7 cents per point. That there are exceptions. There are always exceptions to everything, but generally I can't expect to get that. I bought a domestic flight within China, and ironically enough, the cheapest flight via points was Delta, and it got me. I think it was like 1.5, 1.6, and I took it. And then keep in mind, even in economy, especially like with choice hotels, for example, there was that one in Rome that I talked about earlier. There was a hotel that I had stayed in New York where all prices were wildly inflated. You were not going to stay in New York for less than $800 a night, even via Airbnb, and you're talking about like a closet. Choice points, and it was something like 9 cents per point. And I'm an economy traveler. 9 cents per point, unbelievably good. So, yeah, yeah. So it'll depend. 1.7 to 9 cents per point, I guess, is the answer to that question. What about you?
Well, when we're, it's so strange because I have my objectives on this, and I do my own point redemption values
Mm-hmm.
because the ones that are published, like the Points Guy and Frequent Miler, I think does some. I mean, or Award Travel. I mean, some of these several different places put out their points valuations,
Mm-hmm.
and they're never accurate for me, never, because they average bad redemptions and good redemptions. And those of us who cherry pick are not going to get those bad redemptions. If you're willing to pay cash under a certain threshold, like you mentioned, you're never going to get a zero point 0.8 or whatever. And so
Yeah.
it's just irrelevant. So I do my own for business and first class, and
Mm-hmm.
so what I do is I'll look and I'll have ChatGPT run me random locations from the United States. And this is, of course, considering that I'm willing to take a positioning flight, so
Mm-hmm.
to go from whatever airport's most convenient. And so I'll have it run me 20 different random destinations around the world and run me 10 or 20 different dates. And I'll just check. And I spent a little time and I did a video last year on this. I was surprised at the best cent per point value was Virgin. It was over
Really?
15 cents per point. I mean, if you cherry pick, because
That's
and it's partly skewed because Virgin charges a lot for their flights. I
they
mean,
do.
so if
The
you
taxes
were to
and
run
fees can
that
be
same amount versus what another airline charges for that flight, which might be $4,000 for that business class one way, but Virgin's charging 11,000 for it. I mean, I know that can skew the numbers, but absolutely just pure cent
you're
per
talking
point
about.
value, it can
Yeah.
run 15 cents per point. And that blew my mind because I didn't expect that. Now, those are hard to find, granted, but it's great. But consistently, American, Alaska were at the top, and they were almost always 5.5 to 7. And pretty much if it's not 3.5 or above on a business class flight, I just don't consider it. However, on
Mhm.
premium economy, you said that you've done business. Have you done premium yet?
No, I've not because I'm kind of the mentality of like I'm either going all in or I'm staying with my cat in the luggage. Basically,
Right.
I'm staying basically anywhere I can. I'm so no, I don't really do that middle ground because to be honest with you, if I don't have a lie flat seat in my mind, it's like what am I paying for?
Right.
Why?
Well,
What's your perspective there?
Well, we're sometimes and I get really frustrated with some of these programs because they don't let you choose your seat. In
Yeah.
fact, I just had it the other day because I have status with One World. I'm high level status with One World. So they're all
Mhm.
supposed to let me choose my seat. Well, we were going to fly on Cathay that we booked through American,
Mhm.
and we booked economy, but we do poor man's business class. In fact, we did it last week. I always book the A and the C seat, okay? Or
Yeah.
the D and the F seat or whatever. Leave the middle one empty. And I know some people hate that, but I don't care. I mean, I don't sit there. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and honestly, if you're in the extra legroom seats like main cabin extra or Comfort Plus or something like that, and you
Mhm.
don't have a seat in between you, it's pretty awesome
Oh,
because
oh
we
my
could take
god.
turns laying down and sleeping, and it was cheap. So we're getting to where we've done premium economy because it's just far better. I mean, it's far better. It's like flying
Interesting.
domestic first, right? It's nice, but you can't lay down. But
Well,
you
what makes you
can if you
say
don't have a seat between you. So we're starting to shift to that.
Mhm.
But the premium economy is where your cent per point is all over the map. I mean, we've done 10,000 premium economy to on Virgin to
Mhm.
England. I mean, 10,000 points.
God, that's crazy.
10,000 points in premium. I mean, the cent per point value on that is through the roof. It's crazy high. But
What airline was that?
it was Virgin.
That
And
was Virgin?
I mean, yeah, 10,000. So now the taxes and fees were like $200 each or whatever, but whatever. I
Yeah.
don't care about
Yeah.
that. But then this fall, we're having trouble because when American doesn't fly to a destination, that messes me up because I
Mhm.
can't book my initial flight in in an exit row with the A and C seat where somebody's probably not going to sit between us. I can't prepare that way. So what I had to do is book through American on Cathay, and I called Cathay Pacific, waited on hold to talk to them, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to choose my seats. I'm Sapphire with One World." And they said, "Oh, that's fine." And so they had a really nice exit row I was going to get and do the same thing. And they said, "Well, that'll be $241." And I said, "What? What?" And they said, "Oh, well, you're Sapphire, but your spouse is not, so you've got to pay." I'm like, "What?" I mean, it's like that kind of thing just drives me insane. So the system doesn't work perfectly every time, but
Mhm.
yeah, I was trying to get to the point that the cent per point value can be all over the map. And so we ended up booking for this fall, and I can change it because Delta's changeable. And I don't fly Delta that much, but I did find a premium economy for like 70,000 points. So I booked that to Hong Kong, and I'm watching every week, see if I find
See
something
if you can
better.
get that down.
And I'm thinking Eva Air right now. I'm really leaning into that. I think we'll probably
That
end up.
is one partner I have struggled to work, and simply, and it's not because there aren't deals. You can find deals.
Oh, there
Working
are deals.
their website is horrible.
Oh, it's so bad.
I,
That's
I,
why
I
there are
literally,
deals.
yeah, that's so true.
That's
That's so true.
That's why there are deals because their
I
website. I mean, on Eva, you can, like, if you have an account and I have an account, you can search for one person unless you put in your companion's Eva number and log in as them
Mhm.
under your account. It's wild. And then the way I understand it, I haven't done one yet, but the way I understand it from the listen to the frequent miler guys, if you try to book for two people, now you're better off booking from each individual account. But that means, what if that other seat sells out? You
Yes,
know,
which
that's, and
yeah.
we'll probably risk it because, we want to fly business. So, but
Mhm.
80,000 points in a good business class to Hong Kong, that's a pretty
That's not
good
bad.
deal. That's a
That's
better
not
deal
bad.
than I'm finding other places. So so I guess the answer is the cent per point value really fluctuates pretty dynamically, I guess is a word we use all the time in this space. So
The other thing that you brought up that I thought was interesting because it is limiting whenever you're an economy class, points and miles guy is positioning flights. Don't get me wrong, there are times where taking a positioning flight to then take an economy flight from there that you booked as a reward flight is possible. That would be better than booking in cash. But a lot of times I have to find deals that I can book just with points directly from the airport that I'm leaving from to get a good deal.
right.
Meaning there's very if if I'm looking for a business class ticket, which later on in life I might be doing that, then all of a sudden positioning flights will make a lot of sense. But
Right.
yeah.
Because if you're out of a smaller airport and you're out of Austin, I'm out of Memphis. Out of Memphis, no major airline's going to fly direct anywhere. So it's like I've either got to do a positioning flight or I got to fly American, Delta, or United.
Yeah.
And American does work sometimes. I mean, I got a 75,000 point flight to Korea, but I bought it the day before with Alaska on American.
Mhm.
And it had been 200,000 points a week before. So it can be done, but it's difficult. But in economy, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for me to spend the same amount or close to the same amount that I'm spending on the economy ticket to reposition somewhere and it only saves me 10,000 points or something. I mean,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
repositioning really only matters in business class and first class. At least, do we agree on that?
I agree. I totally agree. The number of times that I've had to have a positioning flight is zero.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do it because of course it doesn't matter to me as long as I'm not flying business class. It's just not worth it. But yeah.
So let me ask you this. As a primarily an economy class traveler, one of the big selling points of all of the high-end cards now are all these credits. We've got everything from Equinox to hotel credits to Lululemon to Uber credits. I mean, everything. How does that impact you? Because from my perspective, that is a big part of our travel. I mean, a huge part of our travel because it makes hotels available to us that we wouldn't pay for
Mhm.
because of the credits back. But I mean, like FHR, you can't even use that on a low end hotel. I mean, it's useless. Now, some of the credits are more useful, but I'd be curious because those are just gravy topping on the cake for us. So we like the high-end cards. We like the credits. It works great for us, but I can see that for a lot of people, they're wasting money on those cards. And I think you would be the right guy to speak to that.
Um, That's a really good question, and I will say it is why a lot of people these days want to call it mid max. I like to max out how many ecosystems I can be in and get really good value, at least what I view as really good value for nearly free. Because frankly, like a lot of these credits that come with these cards, I could not care less about a Saks credit, about a Lululemon credit, and I know that your audience is going to gasp. You might even gasp. I couldn't care less about the FHR credit. I couldn't care less about the edit credit. I don't care about those fancy hotels. And keep in mind, I stay at a lot of them for work. At least I did. And it all of that is to say, whenever I'm looking at credits, I want ones that I can get essentially cash value for what I would have spent in cash. So really good example. Everybody really rags on the City Strata Elite card because, oh, well, you got to spend 2 nights in a row at the hotel to get that hotel credit. I love that. I love that I can stretch out that $300 credit. And really good example, we're going to China here pretty soon. I needed to stay at this. Keep in mind, I was not even able to use the entire $300 credit at what I view as a very nice hotel for 4 nights. It's for me, it's
You
great.
could go to Vietnam and stay for 3 weeks.
Exactly. That's my exactly. And as an international traveler who likes to go to places that are very affordable, yeah, it's a really good example of a card that just would not work for me that everyone loves, and I understand why because they travel very differently than I do. Everyone loves the Hilton Aspire card,
I
but
have it. I love it.
and everybody points to, okay, I can use this free night on any hotel I want to, as long as it says, what is it, like basic something, as long as a room has a certain classification, and you can use that free night certificate on any hotel. Basically, you can get a lot of value at a hotel that you normally wouldn't stay at. For me, because I don't care about that, I can't justify spending $550 in the card because, well, I have no problem staying at a hotel that would cost me $100 a night. So at the end of the day, I cannot get value from that card.
Yeah, and
So
see that is I always list that besides my prestige card. I always list that as my favorite card because for our style, man, I mean, we stayed in an eleven
greatest
hundred
thing ever.
dollar a night room last year. $1,100 a night. But I can see I do not think that card works for a lot of people because I mean the credits, the $400 resort credit are at
Mhm.
resorts. I mean, you got to go to a resort. Now you can find resorts. I mean, we stayed at the Abu Dhabi Conrad, which was one of our top stays we've ever been at. It was
Mhm.
unbelievable. And with diamond status, the breakfast, I mean, I, I don't know what that breakfast would have cost, but it was unbelievable. And then they had a kind of a happy hour with shrimp and crab and everything every night for diamonds. We didn't even have to go out to eat. It was unbelievable. But that five-star hotel was $151 a night. And we got 200 back on the 2 night stay because of
Yeah.
the Hilton Aspire. But if you try to use that as a domestic traveler in the US, that $200, unless you go to Vegas, it's the only place it really works well.
Everybody uses that as the example, and it's like
Yeah,
I don't
and
want to
it's
go
the
to Vegas.
exception. It's not the
Yeah.
example. But
Hmm.
now if you go to Vegas, yes, you can find cheap rooms on Monday through Thursday night sometimes. But
Yeah.
everywhere else, you're going to get a $200 resort credit and that's going to pay for some food and stuff, but you're going to be spending $500 a night to get it. And so I think that's a perfect example of a niche card that works great for my style of travel, but doesn't work very well for your style of travel and for a lot of people's style of travel. So that's a great example. Well, can you think of any cards that would work great for you that probably wouldn't fit my style very well?
I'm trying to think. That's a very good question. Because the prime example. I'll just go back to the old one. With the City Strata Elite. Even for somebody like you can still choose to stay at a very nice hotel if you want to through the city travel portal if you want to.
Mhm.
So it works for you. I guess I would throw that back at you, be thinking about like, is there anything that doesn't work for you? But the cards that work for me, the City Strat Elite, love it. Venture X, like again, we were talking about it maybe in the other video. My wife has the Venture X, and we don't use it, we don't need it, but we keep it just because that credit is so easy, even as an economy traveler. We're going to be in Shanghai. We actually spent over the value of that credit, but if we wanted to, we could have stayed in like the countryside for $50 a night, stayed 6 nights if we wanted to. But yeah, I guess I can't think of anything off the top of my head that wouldn't work for you. Do you
Well,
have you thought of anything?
strangely enough, the Chase Sapphire Reserve does not work for me. Because I don't want to have to stay 2 nights to get my $250. That's why
Yes. Yeah.
FHR is so because we hop, so we stay one nights, and so man, FHR is gravy. I mean, because you can find the hotels in the 300 to 450 range, get 300 back, but edit they built in a. I mean, there's breakage there. You can't do that. So that one doesn't work, even though that's a high end card. It's just not
Yeah.
one that's going to work for me ever. But on the low end, the Chase Sapphire Preferred with that little $50 credit, I mean, it's like that just doesn't move the needle, right? I mean, I
No,
get
it
it.
doesn't.
And somebody commented on one of my videos, and it was a good comment. It's like, well, you get $50 back for a $50 hotel if you could find one. I mean, it is the one-to-one credit, and I've got to give attention to that. That's true. But $50 just doesn't move the needle. So it's like, especially
Well,
not getting good return on the rest of the spend on that stay. So yeah, I would say on opposite ends of the spectrum, they're both chase cards that do not work for me. So as far as hotels go,
and back to that comment, the $50 hotel, 1 to 1. I hear what that individual is saying, but number one, you're gonna have to be like me. You're gonna be having to travel to places like Vietnam, India, stuff like that, which maybe you do, but most likely because it's through the Chase portal, that hotel, the Chase portal has been horrible for me. I can never get any good value out of that $50 Chase credit because typically it's $30 more or $40 more at the end of the day than if I had paid in cash direct.
and it
So
eats up all your credit.
that hotel was probably $30 direct, but you spent $50 in the portal, so you feel like you got $50 of value, but in reality, you saved like $30. I I don't know.
That's why I like City's portal. To me, has had the best prices as far as comparable to cash prices, especially weirdly on Marriott hotels more than any others. I don't know why, but that's been my experience when shopping for them. So.
It's interesting. Whenever they had originally launched the Elite, I think, I mean, if you disagree with me, let me know. I feel like I have noticed that the hotel prices within their portal have gotten a little worse since the launch of the Elite. And I'm wondering if that's because whenever they launched the Elite, obviously they had an incentive to make sure that that credit seemed as pristine as possible. I have noticed it feels like things have increased a little bit, but it is still not even close to as bad as the Chase Travel Portal.
No. If I
So,
were in your shoes, I'd be slamming that elite card through the portal at 12x. That's
yeah.
just that's just
I
unbelievable value.
I love the 12x, and on top of that, especially if you with my previous job, I had we didn't have a company card. 12 before that, I was using the 10x on the Premier because even that's like really good. 10x in city points on your hotel stays, and of course that's expense to the company. Now I can get 12x. I mean, come on, yeah,
Unbelievably good. So
yeah.
last question, let me ask you, how do um how do co-brand cards fit into your travel strategy?
It's interesting because again, on the economy side, things are a lot more limiting. There are certain cards, ironically enough, one that no one talks about, no one likes. You're going to laugh at me. There's a Choice Hotels card that I want because they basically give you automatically $200 worth of choice points, which I
Just
can
for
get
having
way
the
more
card.
value
Hmm.
just for having the card, and it costs $95. But outside of that, generally, I am not a branded cards sort of person. Just because number one, I'm not usually looking for status, typically because I can't reach status. And on top of that, I'm just being honest, a lot of the perks that come with most status, I don't care about. Don't get me wrong. I would love a free upgrade, even though, quick tip, if you're very nice to the people at the front desk, they'll upgrade you if you're nice sometimes, but it would be nice to have a free
Unless they have a
upgrade
long
once
queue
in a
of
while.
status people.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But yeah, well, actually, really good example. Everybody talks about the Hyatt Hyatt globalist status. The last Hyatt that I stayed at, it was in North Carolina for work. I got upgraded for free. But you are behind those that actually get those upgrades. But at the end of the day, I'm not status. I don't have any loyalty. A lot of times you're not getting very good multipliers on those cards. So at the end of the day, I don't end up with very many co-branded cards.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
see, in
What
my
about you?
situation, yeah, I have because lounges matter a lot. I mean, we go to over 100 lounges a year for the last 2 years.
Hmm.
So like, but I'm a big one on when I say lounges are important to me, the most important lounge are airline lounges,
Yeah.
not the others because I fly for work. You used to fly for work. How many times did you have a long enough layover to switch terminals and go over there and no, no, no. That and the best lounge is the one you can get in quick. That,
Yes.
that's just
And
a fact.
actually, I
So
do want
the
to.
American Airlines executive card is my best lounge card. I mean, because I can always get in. It's never a line. I'm always in there. I can get something to eat in 20 minutes and be to my gate. And so, yeah, so co-branded cards like that. We already mentioned the Hilton Aspire. We love that diamond status. I mean, you're treated in just an incredible way overseas. Now here in the States, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. But overseas, you're just treated so well. So yeah, we have quite a few co-branded cards. I mean, I have a lot of friends who have that Atmos Summit card. It's got a lot of perks as a
That is,
so
there's two cards that I actually would be interested in. Number one, the Atmos Summit card, because the loyalty seems a little easier to achieve because you can get the you can crazy enough, you can apply partner airline flights. You can apply those loyalty miles to your Atmos account, as crazy as that sounds. And then the other one that I've considered 1,000 times, but again, when you're an economy traveler, things are different. The American Airlines card, the premium card. I'm losing the name.
executive.
The executive card is an excellent card, and frankly, like based out of the Austin has no bank lounges. I would love to have access to that American Airlines lounge. The problem is that you have to be flying American, and as an economy traveler, you're picking whatever is cheapest.
Or
And a
One
lot of
World.
times,
Or One World.
or one world, but in like based out of the Austin airport, for example, if I'm not flying American, I'm most likely flying United, Delta, Southwest, something like that. And as a result, I couldn't get into that lounge. So but I will say, with my dependence on City points, it is becoming a lot more viable to hold that card. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Travis, I want to thank you for coming on today. This has been fun. I mean, just talking about different travel styles, and I'm sure this is going to apply to a lot of people in a lot of different circumstances. So, thank you for sharing with me. It's been fun. We've done two videos like this together. One's on his channel, one's on this channel, and I hope you guys will go over there and make sure that you subscribe because, I mean, Travis, you know your stuff, and I appreciate it very much. I watch
Oh,
all of your
thank you.
videos. Thank you so much.
It was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and we will see you here next time.